I got to ask the question first and foremost. How's your week been? It's got to feel pretty surreal having to come down after winning the title, right?
Um, it's been like low key a bit stressful because I'm trying to like get out of competition mode. I feel like that's something that isn't talked about. It's like you go for so many days straight, and then like you win, and then like you gotta chill, you know. And I think on the plane ride home, I was still thinking about our mistakes, and like new strats, new theory, what to focus on when we get back to practice. And I'm like, dude, I was like, shut up. Like I was telling myself to relax because I was still like wired and ready to go.
Mate,
So yeah.
that's the life. That's the lifetime of a coach. It feels like, right? You can never really stop thinking about it. I guess for those that
Not
don't know
really,
as well,
no.
it's worth doing a quick intro as well. Like for those who've tuned in and gone, okay, cool. I used to tune into the occasional stream. I don't know who Fett is. Well, Fett is someone you should know. Head coach of Beastcoast, major champion at 22 years old, I believe, right? I
Yes,
think most
yes.
22-year-olds would kill to have a major title at that age. So first and foremost, well done. I think it's pretty fair
Thank
to
you so
say that
much.
you've led that team that has pulled off probably one of the most insane underdog stories that Siege will ever see. And interestingly, just a couple of days ago, said that realistically, in a few months, you're retiring, right? Which I think probably would have surprised many. Give us a quick idea behind that. Like, I know you're going for the PhD and all the rest of it. What are you off to study? What's the game plan there?
Yeah, so during I've done a pro siege on my undergrad career, and that's doable because you can kind of schedule your classes around like the morning, and then you can scrim for like the rest of the day. So in my time zone, like double scrims would last usually from like 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. But in grad school, it's like a 9 to 5. So I can't really make all those early blocks of scrims. The team did, want me to like stay as a part timer, but the thing with me is I can't half-ass anything, you know? I
Mm,
know, like, if I get slightly involved, I wanna go all in. I'll start, like, deprioritizing grad school just to compete again, because like, that once that fire gets lit, I get pretty obsessive, so, in order to, like, keep myself sane, I think it's just realistic that, I let the clock run out, but competing's been super, super fun, man. Can't replace
yeah.
it.
And you've been doing it since, is it 2021, right? When I was looking back at Wikipedia, and look, that's not always the full history, but you started with Team Bale, right?
Yes, that was my first CL team that I've been on, yes.
Nice. And how did you get involved prior to that? Were you involved in some lower level teams? Were you kind of like playing casually and thought, you know what, I fancy giving this a go? Like, how did you get into Team Bale to start things off?
Yeah, so before that I was like a T3 IGL. And the thing is, I started playing the game a bit late. Age-wise, I think I was bashing my head against CS for a while and it just didn't work out. Then I switched to Siege and it ended up working out. So I wasn't at the level I wanted to be as a player when I was going into college. So then I realized, like, you know what? Like in college, I'm not going to be able to get enough sleep because I want to be an academic weapon. The typical old Asian parents jazz. So I was like, I can't control the quality of product I deliver to my team as a player, maybe, but as a coach, I feel like I can consistently deliver great, or contribution to the team. So then I switched over to coaching the moment I hit college, and the rest is history, I guess.
As they say from there, right? Yeah. And you built up one thing that really kind of made me catch attention was the other day, actually, a tweet came out. I think it was from Igor over at Fury, right? Who said, I've been watching this guy for a while now after he spotted something. And there was this content that I'll flash up on stream for everyone to see where he basically just said, since I knew that you spotted this, you were worth keeping an eye on. And I think it was like a year later, you saw a strat that was used, a scent strat in Clubhouse Basement, right? And that's when I was just
Yeah,
like, well, clearly this guy's pretty damn attentive because I struggled to remember what happened last week. Yet here you are remembering things from a year ago, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was Secret Sense Strat, and everyone was kind of like complimenting Secret over it, and I was like, well, they're not the first ones to do it. I felt the reason I tweeted that, like, I wanted to seem cool and quirky, but the real reason I tweeted that is I wanted to like give credit where credit is due to Igor, and his team for creating that play on Clubhouse. But I mean, I guess it impressed him, which is nice. I thought it was it was highlighted during the cast of the event and like the post analysis of the event, which was very well done by the people who did that event. But I think, yeah, I guess I ended up being a nerd.
Yeah, completely appreciate that. And obviously that's just a quick intro here, right? We've got to go. I want to get into all kind of things about like you guys as a team, the major run, and really get under the skin of what makes you tick as a coach. But that's a really good little preview there, I think, of some of the things that
Yeah,
you're being recognised for throughout your career, right? So let's start with
nice.
the
Thank you
fun
so
one
much.
first. Where the hell does the name fettuccine come from? It's a type of pasta, right? Like, is it you just really like fettuccine? What's the story?
Um, so I used to have a different name. My friends used to call me a name in CS. I didn't know that it was a derogatory name until one day I tried to change it on Ubisoft and it didn't work. And I
Ah,
was like, well, I can't compete and then have that as a name. I didn't know. I honestly didn't know, and it's not as bad as people think. I'm just still not gonna say it because obviously it's PG stream.
Yeah.
So then I was like, the first word that came to my head was fettuccine. I just like the most random word. And it just stuck with it ever since. I didn't really second think it, like I didn't second guess it. I didn't think about it. I just rebranded up to like the most random word that came to my head.
I thought it'd be a thing like you're eating a bowl of pasta, fettuccine, and we're just like, yeah, man, I'm thinking about my future, and fettuccine is going to be the future for me. But no, just you chose the most random thing that came to your head.
Random rebrand, yeah.
I
Most
think
random word.
people either have really deep reasons that like point back to childhood, or others are just like, I don't know, it's just a random word I thought of, right? Or it's a misspelling of another word that I like, so here we are.
Yeah,
I've already kind of asked you, have you calmed down after the major yet? What did you guys do to celebrate? Did you go out on the night itself? Did you kind of get back home first and then do something? I guess you all live in different places, right? So not so easy, but what have the boys all run off and done since that day?
That night, Spirits had a shuttle to his flight at 3 a.m. So we literally played the series, and within 2 hours, he had to do a turnaround to go back
Classic
and go.
esports, no time to celebrate. Get out, get home.
Yeah, and then we messed up because we forgot to clean up our prac room before going for the grand final. So they put all our stuff in a box, and then I took the box. So I went to the after party bar for 10 minutes, and then Spirits was like, I need that box. And I come back. I down 2 cocktails. I go back. I help Spirits with the stuff, and then I pack for the airport. So just no after party, really. Nothing to celebrate.
Fair enough. Well, maybe when the team get together next time, hey, you can have a little kind of after celebration.
Hopefully, yeah.
How did you find the UK? Is it your first time coming to the UK? What did you think of Manchester? Give us your thoughts on that as well.
I really like the weather during the summer. I don't know how it is during the winter, but oh man, I was like, I came back to Texas. I'm from Texas. I touched down and it was like 90 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius. Oh my God. I wanted to die. I wanted to go back to the UK.
See, I've been to Austin a few times. Like, Austin's one of my favorite places. Like in Texas, is obviously, not too dissimilar, I guess, across all the cities from that. But Terry Black's barbecue in Austin, my favorite.
So
good.
Good.
I was there the week before the major, so I missed out on phase 1 from casting it because I was at this event in Austin, and the weather out there was like, I think 100 for you is like what, 31 to 33 in like Celsius. Too hot for me. Like that, it's just too much. UK weather's nice when it's warm. Like today outside, what is it? Let's find out real quick. Actually, it's what, 21 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit. That's what it is today. It's a lovely bit of weather. That is 70. Surely not. It's 70 outside, and it is beautiful. 100 sounds like death. Like I'm walking into the sun.
Love it. I love the UK weather. In Texas, it's also like it gets humid and you like spawn in sweating. Like you walk outside in just like a coat of sweat. Like, oh man, no.
Yeah, it's too much. The thing is, normally here, even during the summer, like we're predicted, I think it is for our wettest summer coming up, like 50 days of rain or something. So trust me, it's not normally that nice. It is normally crap.
That's true. Yeah. But we boot camped in London, and London food surprised me a lot. London food is really good. I love London food.
It's really funny because everyone thinks about the UK and they're just like, oh, you guys have got no like food culture. Like you don't have your own food. You got what, beans on toast and fish and chips and maybe an English breakfast. But I think one thing we do really well here is have a collection of food from around the world that's generally done to a pretty high standard, right? What did you try while you were here?
Yeah, we boot camped in London, and it was just like, it's like the New York of the UK is what I would say. The New York City, like it's just a lot of cultural foods. Everything like maybe isn't seasoned to the same extent as America, but it feels healthier. Like I feel like I can eat it. Like I was eating burgers and I was having a good time on the toilet. And I go back to America and I have a horrible time on the toilet. So there you go.
That's a measure of quality of food, how much time you spend on the toilet afterwards, right?
Yes.
Love it. Cool. Right. Opening questions out the way. Team structure. Really want to talk through that because this is where I probably had the most questions. And what people want to hear about from your side is why this roster. No one really knew, looking at the team, like a lot of them have been dropped or benched previously or rosters had disbanded. And I think there wasn't particularly high expectations, but for you guys to finish first in NAL, then go on to win the major, sort of proves a lot of those who maybe were doubting that roster very, very wrong, right? So let's go back to the very foundations when this first came together. Before we go into the actual players themselves, I want to talk about you and Fozo, right? I had a chat to him and he said, realistically, you guys were given the keys to do what you want. You told management, trust the process and trust well rewarded, I guess is what we can say. So I think it was when Hex on Reddit previously explained for Fozo's sharp skills, it made him really hard not to take on when his time was up as a player. For those who maybe aren't too aware of the inner workings of a team, what does he concern himself with, and what is it that you concern yourself with inside Beastcoast? How do you split the kind of responsibilities?
Yeah, so he bridges me to the org. To put it like the most simple way possible, I tell him I want a player, and he goes in the group chat and he fights for his life. Like that's literally what it is. Like, he goes in that group chat and he gets like railed by like 15 execs, and like people are asking questions like why, and he's like over there convincing them, and then I'm just like, I want this guy. Just kidding, we can't get him anymore. And then he's like, oh, I gotta go back and do it again. So I really love him for that. He's always in there like doing God's work in the back, and you know I'm now realizing how important for him to do that, because I feel like I'm a very like blunt person. So sometimes when I have like comms with the org directly, sometimes stuff gets lost in translation, and he's really good at like being the middleman for that. So I appreciate him endlessly for that.
Is the conduit, it can do the kind of like exec speak in a way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. He said in the tweet, actually, I think it was yesterday, he was like, you don't make his job easy. Is there a
No.
is there a fun story behind that, or is it just more around the assembling of these 5 players?
Yeah, I'm kind of like just mean. Like I, I don't know. Like I just, org corporate talk. I mean, it's a skill I need to learn. But
But
I
I just want to
just
play Siege, man. I want to talk about Siege, and that's it.
I've been pretty yeah, I've been pretty bad at that. I apologize to anyone on the org who's had to interact with me. Um, yeah, I just it's something I need to work on for sure.
Fair enough. And how did you two guys come together? Because from what I understand, at least, obviously Fozo was a player before. He's been around Beast Coast now for a few years, right? How did you two come together?
Yeah, so Fozo got put on management, I think, before I was ever able to join Beast Coast. I do think it was a season that Mr. B roster came about. That was when he first got put on management. So I think he scouted out Hyper to build that roster, and then Hyper made, I think, a pretty smart decision to pick up most of Reality TV at the time, which was like the dominant CL roster that I also happened to coach. And by proxy, I got picked up alongside that as a coach, right? Because Mr. B was familiar with working with me. So yeah, we got fourth place, and then we bombed out to last place, second stage.
Yeah.
And then we decided to nuke the roster because, well, everyone wanted to leave kind of on that roster after that last place finish, and I was the only one remaining because I still had that drive in me. And as I was the only one remaining, Foza was like, you know what, like you got the keys, like you do what you want. Like I want to still like green light things for you. I still want to like pass by things by me, but for the most part, like you make the decisions, and I'll fight for your decisions. And that was kind of like the partnership going on there.
Like it. And a lot of the negotiation on his side, I imagine, was, give us the keys and let us work some magic, right? And fair
Yeah.
to say you guys have. He was the one doing all that working on that side to make sure that you guys could pick up who you wanted to pick up, right?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome, cool. And then analysts often end up pushed to one side, but you used to be an analyst yourself as well, right? So you'll appreciate this at least a little bit. Froshi, I think you gave him a shout out during your Twitter thread the other day as well. He meets every request that you ask of him. Again, for those maybe who aren't so aware of the difference between, say, a coach and an analyst, what does he do that you don't do?
He does everything, honestly. He tracks all the stats, the win rates, the little tiny stats that I love looking at to break down our strats. That's something I really can't do because I'm just not, as proficient in building a large spreadsheet like that. He does
It feels like
sometimes
the
when the prep.
quintessential Siege skill is being able to build a spreadsheet, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yes, most definitely. Actually, it's so important for map bans. We'll cross compare analyses of map bans to make sure we have the best, look at, and plan going into each game. He'll split up prep with me at times, or sometimes not. And I just like it's for me. It's like it's just so hard to be my analyst because, like I said in that tweet, I just give him like the most random last second monumental task to do. Like for M80, like the NIL final game, we knew they were like a heavy preset team, like preset drone team. So I literally told them go on every single one of their maps, every single match replay, and find every single preset camp and like compile it into one big document.
Jesus.
Like the night before. I told him the night before to do that, and he did it the next day. I've done that at this event. This event, a lot of the things I actually have been putting him on is I said, okay, go watch a team's VOD, and then go watch the enemy team's opponent, and then watch the team you just reviewed's previous VOD on that map, and then and analyze whether or not they counter strat. Like to what extent they counter strat, and then break that down and report it back to me. And that was also like the night before games at some point. And he just does it every single time. He fully delivers. I skim through just to make sure what he's saying is like, I agree with it, and every time it's accurate.
Awesome. I kind of want to jump into this here for a second as well. I was going to ask about this a bit later, but like I said, we can go off the rails at different points here. When you're sitting there and you've got this information coming from him and you've realized, okay, then here's something that we can do. How are you then getting that across the players? Because inside of, like I said, 24-hour turnaround on some of these series, right? And you said the night before for M80, not only has he got to collect all that information and give it to you for you to analyze and then go, okay, then here's what we're going to do. You've then got to put that in the hands of the players and make sure they're all on board with the plan and all 5 of them are on the same sort of page. Otherwise, it's not going to work. How do you make that stick in such a short time frame?
Yeah, so the biggest thing with presenting preparation to players is creating it in such a digestible way that honestly can seem a bit oversimplified. You got to realize a lot of staffers fail to realize that, trying to digest information as a player is really hard. And in terms of application to the game, and sometimes they'll overload their players. And I've, unfortunately done the mistake of overloading players, or, not understanding which players do better with or without prep. I think that's also another thing is if you present prep to all the players, some will flourish and some will become shells of themselves and not become to, be able to think for themselves. So really figuring out what players do well with prep, without prep, and condensing that prep to like in an extreme way to say it, how can I describe, everything the enemy does on a bomb site in one sentence,
Mm,
right? And then how do I describe how to beat it in one sentence, right?
yeah.
Like that's kind of the extreme way I like to say it. I had a notebook that I used for prep the entire event. I used up like half of it in one event, and that's kind of the way I was
I,
able
th-
to write things down.
I think
Yeah.
everyone's very familiar with your pacing and the notes and the notebook as well, to be fair. Yeah, which we can go into a bit later on as well. So I'd be keen to know the sort of things you're capping down, but we'll go into that no doubt as well. How did you actually come across Foshi? Because again, I'm asking this for those that may be out there that are thinking, you know what, I'd quite like to get involved in esports in some way. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, many look at the analyst role as the one that's the easiest to kind of get started with. How did you come across him in the first place?
Yeah, so I mean, I've seen him before in Challenger League, and we had like brief encounters there. I remember I released my a public resume after we went undefeated on reality TV, or somewhere around that time. Just because I realized there wasn't like a lot of resources for coaches to base their work off of, and every time I've been able to upgrade my documentative work, it's been off looking at some other coach's work. Right, I'm like, oh shit, like I'm horrible. Like I need to start doing stuff more in like sheets and presentation, Google Docs.
Mm.
So I released that to the public, and people started coming back to me and saying like, how's this? How's this? How's this? So that kind of put in the back of my mind when I saw his, and then I sent out a tweet saying we're looking for an assistant coach on Beastcoast. It was within kind of like budget, right? It's kind of, I mean, pretty low paid position. I'm not gonna lie, but it was within budget, and I got a bunch of applicants. And I remember what pleased me about Froshi was that his work changed from then to now. A lot of analysts that I see out there are either carbon copy of others that don't change over the years, or like I said, just don't change. And when I see change within one's work, that is something I personally am very impressed with and is a sign of hard work ethic, because me personally, I'm okay with showing the world my work because I know it'll always look completely different next stage.
Mm. It's always evolving,
Yeah.
always changing, right? Yeah. It's one thing that I think about a lot, to be fair. Like, I think about, I'm a developer by trade, and devs will always kind of share code. So you can always learn from others, right? But it feels like, at least in the coaching and the esports landscape, especially, it's very closed doors. No one wants to share their resources or share their methods of doing things because it all feels like a competitive advantage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really weird
100%.
world,
Yeah.
but fair play. If that's how you spotted him, fair play to that. Now, this is the bit that I think everyone's really interested in, the players. Let's go back to the very, very start. You and Fozo sat down. You were like, right, we're going to rebuild this org, or rebuild the org, rebuild the team. Rebuilding an org would be interesting. We're going to rebuild this team. Who were, yeah, it can't be all 5 players, surely, all at once. Who were the top names that you guys knew you wanted at that time?
Yeah. So to start from the very beginning, with the failure of stage 2, made me go into this stage with the mindset of I'm looking for experienced players who have been to events and know how to qualify for events, but not just, any veteran. I want like people with very upward trajectories, right? So, our first 2 names that immediately come to mind, I was at the Atlanta Major, and Sean Gunner, aka that's my very first piece. He got dropped, and he comes up to me. He's like, "Fett, I got dropped. Let me get on Beast Coast." And there we go. That was piece number 1. The thing
What a
about
pickup that
Sean
turned out to be, hey?
that made me, yeah, the thing about Sean that made me 100% want him from the very get-go is, and I don't mean to throw shade, but he was getting absolutely lanced on his previous team, right, by the community. And when to be put in that position while being the mental leader of the team, like he was still going out there and hyping them up and giving them speeches. I was like, this guy's got iron fortitude of a mental, right? I need that. I need like the fact that he's able to do that means he's solid, right? He's a great leader. So I get him. For some reason, DZ wasn't even eliminated from Atlanta. I knew he was gonna get dropped. I don't know why. No one told me anything. I had a feeling. I had a tingle. I told Foza, I was like, I have a feeling Gavin's gonna get dropped. Let's get him. So he ends up getting
the sentiment kind of was that he wasn't kind of stepping up. He wasn't quite at the level with the others, right? But some disagreed is a kind of fair way of putting it. And as you guys have shown, he definitely was.
Yeah, I thought it's just he didn't gel with their system. He's a very explosive, dynamic player, and that team at the time was a slower paced team or wanted to be. So yeah, Gavin was piece number 2. At the time, there was a dude named Tristan. He's Gavin's like fragger duo from Reality TV. He subbed in one game for Sage 2 and dropped like a 17 bomb on SSG. So I thought, if he can do that, he's got the star power. That'll be our one rookie. And then we started playing around with roster iterations to kind of develop a map pool. That's one thing I do want to touch on later that I think gave us a big advantage. We were developing a map pool during trial stages and not after settling a 5. So we were already creating strategy and developing a map pool before even having a full 5. And then we played around with more iterations. And then Spirits decided he wanted to play the game again. And his tryout was most impressive. And close to last second, Hot and Cold gets announced as a free agent. At the time, we had 4 with Tristan and Spirits. And basically, at that point, we needed a breach player, but there really wasn't any good breach players. And we just went to him and we just like, hey, listen, like, we know how hungry you are. We know like how much you want to do this. You will have to play breach. You will have to play support operators. I'm sorry. I know you played other stuff your entire career, but that's what you simply have to do. Yeah, and he said Heard, right? And that's a guy with a reputation of he will do what it takes to win and he will do what's asked of him. And so we know he wouldn't just join and start, being a bitch about it and be like, oh, I want to play this and that. Like, no, he was going to come in and do his job and be the leader, right? And then Tristan bailed on us 24 hours before roster lock. We tried out 4 people in one day. And from the one map that we saw from Diffuser, the team majority voted for Diffuser. There was a bit of a discussion between whether or not we wanted a more experienced fragger, like maybe Snake, or if we wanted to take a chance on a rookie. And I think the overall team consensus was that, listen, like Diffuser might go horribly wrong, but we'd rather have the potential of a higher ceiling than just knowing how high we can go with someone that we already know their cap.
Interesting. Because I think Diffuser's the one that many will look at. You might hear trains going past every now and then. Sorry about that. But Diffuser, I think, is the one that many looked at throughout the competition. We're just like, is he really all that? Is he the guy? Is he at the level of the others? A gamble is the main way to put it. But like you say, with 24 hours notice, that's, you're kind of hands forced in that situation. And I think we really saw, especially on map 1 of the finals, right? We saw a lot of that potential that you guys must have seen when you picked him up. Yeah, what's it been like for you seeing him go through that journey of, last second pickup through to putting up big numbers and essentially getting you guys over that first map?
Yeah, it's been, as a coach, my best way with dealing with rookies is honestly like a hands-off way. I try to be as hands-off as possible with the rookies and let them learn from themselves. And I think that's the way they develop most completely as players. And I think it's worked. I think I was just scared for Diffuser the whole time because I didn't want him overthinking. I didn't want him thinking he was dragging down the team. I wanted him to know that he's playing his part, whether he has good statistics or bad statistics, right? Our team functions as a 5. And it made me really happy to see him like on that main stage. For some reason, right? He plays better in front of a crowd than the no crowd. It's the strangest thing ever. He's great online. He's getting in his own head when it's the Swiss stage, when there's no crowd, and then he sits in front of a crowd in like 100-degree room and he's dominating. And I mean, I'm excited for that guy because like that's just the beginning, right? Like imagine if he gets more if he learns how to become consistent with himself through his emotions, through managing his expectations for himself, through understanding, just live in every round and don't worry about the win or the loss. Like if he can get that consistent, just imagine how monstrous that guy will be, right?
Absolutely. And I think about this, I think back to 2018, got to feel old now. Back to 2018, when I used to cast Overwatch, there was a player that was on a team who never put up good numbers in officials. And he was a DPS player. He played Cassidy or McCree, as he was known back then. He was the kind of hit scan guy, right? And I remember messaging their coach and just being like, what is it? Like, you guys put so much faith in, but he doesn't put up the numbers. Like, what's happening? And he said, it's the weirdest thing. He's like, when we scrim, when we're not playing officials, he is the best player in the world. Like, he will drop, it'll carry games by himself, but he crumbles when it comes to officials, and even more so when LAN starts becoming a conversation. And some players, Diffuser probably being one of them, really thrive in that environment. Others really fall back. Like you say, for him, it's kind of the reverse problem that a lot of players have is, can we take the LAN form now back into the online form for stage play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really interesting sort of reverse of the ordering of how most teams would have to address that problem with newer players, I think. And I guess the question I'll come back to is, you mentioned those players that you picked them up in the order you did, like Gunnar came to you guys. I think most coaches will probably hear about the background of these players, they've been dropped, whatever else it might be, and just kind of go, I'm not taking the risk on this many dropped, benched, disbanded players, whatever. What made you and Fozo, I guess, feel willing to take that gamble?
I mean, as long as they want it and they're good, that was it. Like, I think the biggest thing I realized going into that second week of NAL when we were down 0-3 was that my players are amazing for 0-3 because I'm the problem, right? I created a horrible system, so we switched everything and then it started working. I don't know. I saw a Mr. B tweet earlier, and it was kind of harsh when I read it, but I kind of agree with it now. Is that there's so many amazing players in North America. We should be putting up better numbers given better systems. And that was harsh to read at first, but I think that's what kind of needed to be said. I think I'm a good example of that, right? Is like, I mean, as long as these players really want it and you maximize every person's strength, you will perform, right? You create a system where every single player is allowed to thrive the most. Not You don't just force, a philosophy that doesn't work for half the team and works for half the others. You try to curate something that works for absolutely everyone. And I think
There's no
that's
blueprint you can apply that's just going to lead to success, right, with a group of players, because every group is unique.
exactly. You have to create a specific identity to your five that caters to all five of you guys, so that you go into every game and anyone can turn into heroes, right? And we've seen everyone on my team be an absolute monster. So yeah.
Totally. And I guess it begs the question about, is this more a learning on your side then versus the last couple of iterations of the Beast Coast rosters? Because obviously last year, as you say, you came relatively close in stage 1. Stage 2 was a write-off and things happened there as they did. Do you think that was down to yourself maybe not quite getting the system right for those players? Do you think there was some magic in this particular iteration that was missing from before? What do you think it came down to? Obviously, don't want to sit here
I
and
definitely think
slander all the previous
I made a lot
players,
of
for
mistakes.
example.
Yeah, I made a lot of mistakes, but it's also tough because my career as a whole is very gambly and coin flippy. I got second in CL. I got second to last in CL right after that. I went undefeated in CL, and then I got dead last at Invite grouped, and then I got fourth in NAL. Then I got last in NAL, and now I've won the major. So I feel like I'm just like a gambling man. Like every time I try to like make up a new idea of the game, I just, I send it, if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm a volatile coach, I guess. And I don't know. I think that's the reason why I've improved so fast, but also like I've unfortunately had to learn some very harsh lessons through the failures of my former players. So I apologize to all you guys. Wouldn't be possible without you. Thank you for the opportunity to test out some things that ultimately didn't work out.
Stand on the shoulders of giants, as we tend to say. Yeah, they've helped you get to where you are. So fair play to them as well. Cool. Let's kind of step away from the roster a little bit then and talk about the road to this trophy, right? Because that's the dream story that we all want to talk about. A few good questions that I had around this from people in the community was prep, right? What did the schedule look like coming into it? Was there loads of scrims and VOD review? Or I think many kind of woke up to this way of approaching a tournament, the rogue approach to Berlin, right? Where they said quite publicly, we aren't scrimming here. It's all about the players feeling good. We've done the prep before we came in. Now it's about being in a good flow when it comes to the day. So we've got that stability. How do you approach coming into tournaments like this?
So I actually spoke with Spoit about that
Hmm.
thing on Rogue. They were apparently on full double scrims before the event, and then they stopped scrimming during the event.
Yeah.
I don't think that's special. I think a lot of teams do that.
Fair enough.
We did that. That was our approach. I don't know. Like people were always like, "Oh wow, like crazy."
Probably because they're the
I
only ones
guess.
talking about it, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess to the public it is crazy, but I mean, I thought it was pretty normal. So yeah, we did that same approach. I mean, we didn't, we didn't want to scrim during the tournament just to make sure everyone was going into every game day fresh, but we were fully double scrimming for the boot camp before that. And then prep is just like you just get ready to hit a hell shift like before every single game, right? Like you get your opponent gets announced, and then you just hit like a hell like me, Froshi, maybe some of the boys, but mostly me, Froshi, just hit like a little hell shift before the game just to make sure the players have to focus on playing, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, you basically preempted my next question perfectly there, is because the one thing that's always fascinated me is you have what, in some cases maybe 18 hours, but always less than 24 hours of a turnaround between knowing who your current opponent is and then who the next one's going to be. You just maybe had a grueling best of 3. Now you got to prep for another one. Can you afford to go and VOD review every single map? If you've got a god like Froshi behind the scenes, then maybe. But what do you focus on with such little time between game A and game B when you can't spend a whole week prepping for a matchup?
Yeah. Well, yes, we do review every single map. I was actually we had a bit of approach on this. I was actually on full-time duty for that. Froshi was also reviewing, but we weren't splitting it up. We were both kind of like doubling down on it, if that makes sense. So we both individually went over every single one of the opponent's maps.
Is this
Every
before the
single map.
tournament or at the tournament
Yes.
and you knew who the opponent
Like
was?
like we learn the opponent and then we start. Like boom, that is time. Go time, right? And I think one of the biggest strengths that I bring to the team to be a little boastful is I'm able to look at maps very objectively as opposed to data drivenly. So my best example is DZ 7-2 to LG on Chalet in the NAL. We immediately took DZ to Chalet and we played them the very next day and we 7-1 them. And I think that's because I can look at a map and despite the scoreline, despite the numbers, I can see strategically, objectively, do we rail these guys or not, right? Do we diff these guys on this map, right? So I think that's one of my biggest strengths as a coach is when I VOD review, I try to like tune out the data kind of compiled by the prep beforehand and really try to objectively look at each map and be like, they're stronger on this map, we're stronger on this map, blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
And I want to dig into your psyche a bit there as well. When you say stronger on a map, how do you determine, at least in your view, if a team is strong or not on a map? Is it based on how comfortable they look playing out attacks and defenses on there? Is it down to how often they play it? What does your assessment look like?
I think I don't want to leak too much here,
It's always
but
the
I will
problem.
say
No
I
one
think
wants to share too much.
so like given you have two well-developed strategies on an attack, if the strategy, one of them, if I see like a defensive setup and we have a very well-versed attack that just so happens to hit the weakness of that defensive setup, there's no way we lose that round should we play the game correctly. That's all I'll say.
Fair enough. I can think of so many times I've spoken to coaches after games where they'll be like, yeah, we lost 7-4, but we should have won 3 of those rounds, because they see the small things that happen, that see a perfectly, a really good counter in some cases, or a perfect strat to drive into a defense, like you say, or a good defensive counter to an attacking one. But one small thing goes wrong, you lose a couple of gunfights and everything crumbles from there, right? So sometimes it does come down to fine margins.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's also like, habits and like little micro plays that your players like to do that actually play perfectly against what they like to do. Right. And there's certain styles and certain maps that, like, okay, on this map, we're good against really aggressive, fast teams, but they like the slower teams we've been scrimming against just rail us. And this team looks like they go slow as balls on this map, so we're just gonna ban it. Yeah. So that's kind of like the most I'll say on that. But yeah, it's kind of
I
like
need to
really
get you
trying to
back on in like
objectively.
3 or 4 months when you're done with everything, and then you can spill the beans and everything.
Oh
That's the
yeah,
way it's going to have to
I'll spill
work.
everything. Yeah.
I was half joking, but I might actually reach out and do that. It'll be interesting to get the thoughts of someone who's just stepped out of it. Okay, and then this is again somewhat related. Looking at the actual major itself, which team surprised you the most? If you're looking for maybe one here that exceeded expectations and one that fell short, who comes to mind?
Liquid and PSG Talon really surprised me a
Mm,
lot. I think PSG Talon having such a well curated strategical identity is the biggest thing, right? When I talk about having an identity that enables everyone, that is unique, that throws enemy teams off their game, we're talking about teams like PSG Talon, right? Where they'll, because they play their own game so goddamn well, they make you look like amateurs, right? At times. I think like, that team, given they learn more about late round composure and decision making, and they learn how to manage their own expectations, they'll be a really strong team. It's incredible that Fabian has managed to, create that in that time, but also allow the players to cultivate their own ideas within that time in such an effective way. Liquid is just a team that fully counter strats very well. They do stuff off the fly. Like most teams, it's very hard for them to like fully counter strat because you practice so much that you create a comfort and in the routine, right? You've seen teams like Empire and OXG just be, monsters that just running the same thing over and over. But the fact that Liquid can so effectively just like cook something up that fully counters your setup and execute it that well together is impressive to me.
mm.
Falling short of expectations, I guess, phase. But I mean, they beat us before, so it was kind of unfair. We kind of got like a scrim rep against them in the Swiss stage, and because of that, we were able to just know exactly how they win and
Mm.
beat them off a bit. But yeah.
I've got to ask one other thing here as well, because you mentioned PSG talent. I think APAC overall like impressed a lot of people this event, and it's been the question since I got into the game 5 years ago. People have been asking that question: when does the gap start to close? When do we take away more spots from APAC here because they aren't delivering to the level? This is the event I'd wager where probably they got closer than ever to sort of making all these regions as tightly packed together as possible. It wasn't outright LATAM domination. I wouldn't say there's any one region that really dominated overall, right? I think it was pretty overall a very competitive tournament with many of the expected names not being there come finals day.
Yeah. I think it's because they're learning, really good stuff about the game. Julio for Bleed is making them a really good execute team. Julio's, a god of executes. He really understands that. Fabian helped, PSG Town really curate that identity of just go blazing fast in the first 30 seconds and then completely stall out while your opponent's, panicking. CAG, they messed up with map bans against us, so we completely wiped the floor with them on Nighthaven. So I wasn't able to experience their strength firsthand, and I don't know. I don't want to like downplay their achievement, but I didn't feel it from them. But
Mm.
I think once these APAC teams like learn how to manage their own expectations and go into games and try to keep the pressure of winning off themselves, I think they'll be golden. Yeah.
Well, was it Mithy's just gone over to D plus Kia, right, as a coach as well. So it feels like
Yeah.
world champions are now jumping into Korea as the playground. That's where they want to try and level these players up and try and deliver on the big stage, right? It's going to be really interesting to see how that region does specifically. But I take the point on CAG as well. Japan has been a really interesting stage one overall, I think, because every team bar one or two made like at least two roster changes. So it's been a massive shuffle there, and they're still really trying to find their feet, I think. So I don't want to sit here and say CAG will come good at the next major. They might not even make it. I don't know. That region's really competitive right now, but imagine there's a few things there cycling through as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, 100%.
And a question more around like the crowd as well. Do you think? I mean, for one, there was a good few chances for you guys in the Friday, which honestly surprised me. I thought we'd hear a lot of people against NA, but it was quite the opposite. Did having the crowd supporting you guys surprise you?
100%. I thought we were gonna like we had like a good like little front row right there against BDS of just people cheering for us. It made me feel good. Like I thought we were just gonna get like railed the whole time by the crowd, but it felt really good. I mean, the Manchester crowd is insane. I did not expect like the UK to come out so hard for esports. I thought like I don't know, video games were like that big of a thing here.
Huge
So
here,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, crazy. I loved it. I love Manchester so much.
I think a lot of it came down to probably yourself, honestly, as well. Like, I remember seeing a few threads on Reddit, people being like, can we get a Fett compilation once this is all done to see you like losing your marbles and going absolutely nuts during the games, right? So I think a large part of that was people love the passion, right? Although I think a lot in the UK are generally quite reserved, quite quiet. Once they see someone they can
Uh,
really warm to, they'll get behind them. And I think for you guys as well, you were the underdog. There's nothing we love more in the UK than an underdog story. And even though I know it
that's
sounds weird to
nice.
say you're an underdog because you guys were first in NAL, because no one was saying, "Oh, these guys are going to win the whole thing." It felt like the team to get behind if you were a bit of a neutral, right?
Yeah, and
Mm.
I mean, we appreciate that endlessly. You know, a little bit of alcohol helps. I saw
Oh,
the
that's
people
why
were
you were having
telling me
so much
like,
fun. You were pissed for every single game, right? Not quite.
I saw someone like tell me like the UK crowd was gonna be crazy just because everyone's gonna be wasted. And I was like, okay, great. So
I felt
that's
that, man.
cool.
I got in at 9:30 on the Friday, like before the first games. I want to see the opening and all that. And it's 9:30 in the morning, and there's people carrying like 3 or 4 pints in the hand. Like everyone in the UK will know that carry, right? They're carrying the pints all the way across the floor back to their seat, and I'm like, I am so proud to be British right now.
Oh my God, yes.
Oh,
I need that. I love that culture.
alcohol fueled chaos, mate. It's always the way that it goes. Do you think the fact
Yes.
that there wasn't much pressure on you guys? Yeah, again, it sounds bad. You'd won NAL. People should have rightly had expectations of you to maybe go quite far in the tournament. But do you think having very little expectation from fans around the world on you helped like, at least take that pressure off and let the guys perform well? Because I think Liquid probably more than anything feel that more than most, right? Everyone expects them to do well at some point, and when they don't, yeah, dare I say the fans go against them. I'd say they get very passionate in their displeasure.
Yes. And I will say, like, from the general public, I mean, if you're letting that energy affect you, that's usually a really, really bad thing as a player, and you should get your mental checked. But I will say internal expectations are real,
Mm.
right? Like, you know, you've just won an event, you should be winning, right? Or like you should have this, or um, yeah, just a very hard thing to get affected by, and something that definitely affected us for map 2 and map 3 against BDS. We won that first map pretty handily, and I think the win became real in everyone's heads. And when the win became real in everyone's heads, it's hard to go into rounds and be like, we should have won that round. And when you do lose a round you should have won, you have a feeling of disappointment, right? Or if you won a round that you shouldn't have won, you suddenly have a feeling of surprise, and these feelings can throw you off as a player. They can break your focus. It can break your flow state, right? So I think it's just important to manage one's expectations, and I think that's one of APAC's big weaknesses is that they'll win a lot, and then when it comes to a game that matters, they'll be like, "We've been winning. We should win." It's we got to bring this home. We got to do it for APAC, and all of a sudden, like you're playing differently because every round that you lose is tilting you a bit more. Everything that's going wrong is affecting you a bit more, other than just focusing on playing your game. Yeah.
Mm. This is such an interesting like discussion area, I think, as well. I remember speaking to Canadian about this a while ago because everyone remembers old school Troy, SSG days, screaming, going nuts, as we saw him at the event as well. He does exactly the same thing here. But there was a period for about a year where he was very quiet, very muted. And I remember going to him and saying, "Why are you quiet all of a sudden? That's not really like you." And he was saying, "Yeah, the problem with me going nuts is my players go up here and then they can come crashing back down again afterwards, and it can really affect our performance. What I would rather see is players stay kind of on the midline the whole way through, so the energy's not too high, but it's not too low, so these wins and losses don't completely break you, right?" But then we look at you, and you're having an amazing time, going nuts after each round win. How do you keep players in flow state when you're so energetic as a coach?
Um,
Is it just keep them so amped up they can never get a chance to calm
it's
down?
team
Because
dependent. It's team dependent. For me personally, it wasn't ever like intentional. Like these are the reactions I have at home when I watch him on my computer. Like I like I'll
you
like
just
hit my
love the
desk. I'll
game.
fucking jump up and down. I'll throw my fucking pen across the room. Like it's normal. I try to keep the negative reactions to a minimum. Right. I try to keep the stress to a minimum. When we lose a round, I'll be like, okay, like I'll try to like hopefully they can feel from me like go next, don't care, go next. When we went around, I get crazy. Um, and I think like for us as a team, realizing having fun and enjoying ourselves was the best way to get ourselves in the optimal mindset to win. Like, people like to say like, "Oh, like this team is funny because I do that. They don't even care, blah 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 blah." But honestly, like things like having fun is like a min-maxing thing for us. Like we do best when we have fun and don't care. So therefore we will have fun and don't care every time. It's like we win more. We want to win, so let's have fun because we win more when we have fun. It's not that we don't care, is we want to win more, so we're gonna have more fun. Yeah.
Another coach just popped in, actually. I respect Kenny a lot as well. I've got to ask this question for him.
Hey.
How many black suits did you bring to the event? Because if you only had the one, it must have been damn stinky by the end.
I watched it once.
So you seriously brought just one?
Yes, I brought one and I washed it once.
No way, dude.
I don't have any more suits. I think I'm not rich like that, man.
I'm a frugal half, though. Like, I imagine wash it maybe 3 or 4 times with how excited you were getting.
It's tough. You go up there in the laundry rooms. Like, it's 4 laundry machines. They're taken by somebody.
Man, you got to bottle the smell and sell it. That's what Kenny wants right now. The coach stench.
Yeah, no. I mean, the stench. It was just the pits, right? Oh.
And Harton's saying you guys only have 1 jersey each as well. Seriously?
Yes. No.
Damn,
I mean, it's a normal thing at events.
Get Bozo in that group chat, man. He's got to argue for 4 or 5 next time. Damn.
Okay, well, I think it's just a common thing among players. Is just you just wear the same jersey the whole event and you're stinky.
I don't think it is a common thing amongst players at events, though.
I think it's a stacking aura because the gunk. Like, the more you build up, the wider radius of smell that emits around you, and then you walk past the enemy team, and that aura just, wafts over them.
It throws them off, it protects you guys. That's
exactly.
It. That's the way to win a major then, guys. That's the summary of this episode, is get the stench on. It's good.
Yes.
Unreal. That's absolutely brilliant. For the guys that you mentioned, you said when you were building the roster, you wanted those with a bit of experience as well, right? Those that had been to events before and knew what it was all about. Were there any nerves going into the event that you had to temper? I think people would look at Diffuser and assume if anyone was going to have them, it probably would have been him. But you guys always seemed really calm, even when things weren't going to plan, right? Like, you lost a DC, lost a phase, and you were still at that level the whole way through. How did you handle it?
Having fun. Really just having fun. That first DZ game, we weren't having fun. We were putting expectations on ourselves. Like, every single time we put expectations on ourselves, we lose. Honestly. So we just go out there and
about earlier, right? You win, then expect to win. You don't win, and it starts bringing you down.
Exactly. So you just go out there, you do your best, you have some fun. Who cares about the last round? Who cares about the mistakes you make? Who cares? Likey Fact rails us in a map when we start hysterically laughing it off, and we've got infinite stamina. So that's really all it is.
Fair enough. I rate it. Someone on Reddit asked this as well. Actually, it was a Chinese Redditor. They were like, "Was it your parents in the crowd? Were they there to see you be proud?" That's really cute.
That was my mom and her boyfriend, yes.
Oh, and were they proud?
Yeah. I think my mom was finally, all those years of video games weren't for nothing, like I said at the very end.
Were you there with a little bit of nerves, like, God, if this doesn't go well, she's going to kill me after this game?
No, I think the nice part about it is me and my mom have grown together a lot. I did start life out with a very typical Asian parent upbringing. But she was ready for us to lose. She was ready to buy us second place dinner. So yeah, and we won. It was crazy. But I think she was very proud from the get-go, just seeing me on that stage, and I think that was really nice to get her out here. Luckily, the one time I fly her out is the one time we won. So
mate, it would be brutal to fly her out and then get knocked out in quarters or something. That would have sucked. Yeah,
100%.
If you don't mind me asking, reel back a little bit when you were first kind of getting into maybe not just Siege, but esports in general. You said CS is a great example, right? Because I imagine there's a lot of young kids that get into this game. You speak to some players who are like, I've played it since I was 11 years old, for example. They've no doubt got parent pressure, but like you say, the kind of classic Asian parent culture is schoolwork comes first, and that's probably why there's a lot of respect for you going off to do your PhD, even though you're riding this high at the moment. How did you approach that when you were a little bit younger? How did you get that balance where your parents weren't like, right, no more video games, you're banned, it's all about school now? What did that look like?
Well, yeah. It was just as long as I did school good, I could do anything else I wanted. And I was kind of chill, I guess, because I would just get all A's and I just kept playing video games, I just have the most Asian. I just have the most Asian backstories. I do my extracurriculars. I apply to college. I get into college. I do well at college. And as long as I'm doing well at college, do anything I want. Now I got a bachelor's in biomedical engineering, getting a PhD, still doing video games. So as long as I'm pursuing the academics, it's all good.
Nice.
So yes, I would say for the kids, just don't deprioritize your education. I guess or
prioritize life is a key one. I think is a good way to put it. Right.
Yeah, if school's not for you, maybe just get a GED or go to learn a trade. but have something as a backup plan, I think is the best thing. Don't put all your marbles in esports because statistically it's just a low chance, and also it's so much dedication, like beyond what's expected of a lot of normal people. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, I'm pretty sure you won't mind me saying this, but like I've had a few chats with Pengu across the last couple of events, and many would look at Pengu and go, dude, you're like world champion, face of the game, you're set for life. The last 2 or 3 events, we've had conversations about what comes next, and he's already kind of fessed up a couple of careers that he's considering, like looking at applying for, studying for example, because he knows that at some point the esports dream stops or that career ends, and you've got to think about what comes next, right? And so the message I guess out there is, even if you are a world champion, do consider that there is going to be something else that needs to come next. So don't make it the only plan you've got. Sure, make it the main plan, but have something else that you can fall back on afterwards, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Cool. Right. Final day. Talk me through that, because that must have been one hell of an experience. You speak about this mantra of wanting to have fun, and it's all about the fun. Focus on that. When you wake up on finals morning, you can tell me you're having all the fun in the world, but there has to be some degree of nerves in the team, right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like definitely everyone was feeling it that day. I think, obviously it's different because it's a finals day. And that's why, like, from this event, what I've been taking away is like, every game is, just, you strategically death the enemy team. But I really think a grand final BO5 at that point is purely a mental game. Like, honestly, honest to God, I think like 98% just hinges on just, having the stronger mental and, being able to manage your own team's mental in that like marathon of a BO5, right? So I think definitely waking up, I could definitely feel it from everyone else. I can feel it myself too, and people love to like make fun of me, like, oh, like, like, well, you feel nervous as a coach, like, what are you like, what are you like listening to music for? Are you getting like ready to call a timeout? Yes, I'm getting ready to call the best timeouts I've ever called in my life, and because you don't value that as anyone that fucking downplays a coach's timeout and thinks the role is little, that's why you're not winning. Straight up. Okay? I am getting in my own head. I'm listening to fucking Playboy Cardi so I can call the best goddamn timeouts I've ever called in my life. But which I didn't do against BDS. I actually messed up. So but yeah, it was definitely a high pressure day. I feel like we went to map 1 actually. We did our routine very well. We played very well. And we won that pretty handily. Map 2 was consulate, so like we suck at that map. I'm gonna be real. Like it's not that we suck at that map. NA sucks at that map. All right, we scrimmed internationally, and we just realized, wow, NA is so bad at consulate. Like, not a single person understands a single fucking win condition on that map, and it's so annoying. Like, all these win conditions are so default to the EU and Brazilian teams, and it's just like, God, it was annoying learning that NA is just awful at consulate.
The
So yeah,
realization when
we
everyone's
expected to lose
smacking you
that one.
guys about on it, hey? Yeah.
Yeah, but Chalet was definitely like the big mental breaker game because it was like we had control of a lot of the rounds. We were just getting straight up clutched up on, and out-aured, I guess, on rounds that we had like the upper hand in. So right after Chalet, I was picking up the strats, and I turned around and everyone's huddled up, and Gunnar was leading the huddle, and he said, "Listen, boys, if we lose, we lose."
We
And I
heard
think that
that.
was
We heard that on broadcast. Actually, they managed to sneak a microphone in, so we heard him saying,
oh
"Look,
shit.
we take it one round at a time, one map at a time. It's a long series." I actually thought it was a really cool, like, calming sort of statement from it at the very start. It was really nice.
No, yeah, and big props to the players for stepping up in that department. Because honestly, at that point, I was feeling like a little bit downtrodden. Like, and I had to go. I was picking up the strats, and I was like, "Shit, we just fucking lost map 3." And they picked themselves back up. Like, look at them. Like, I'm so fucking proud of them. Like, they got themselves in that huddle. They talked themselves back up. They were able to have fun by themselves. Like, you saw Gavin even bringing out leadership last map every single round. Are you having fun? Are you having fun, Matt? Matt, are you having fun? Every single round, make sure Matt was smiling
Matt
and
has
having
gone to
fun.
sleep for the last week just hearing, "Are you having fun? Are you having fun, Matt? Are you having fun?" That's all he gets anymore.
Every round, it's like, Matt, look at me. Matt, like, you can see that moment in camera, bro. And I've shown so many of my friends that clip. And when I get the comms, I'm gonna make a tweet about it, bro, because that's my favorite moment from the whole event.
That's
Not lifting
awesome.
the trophy was that round where he's Gav, like, we win, and Gav goes, Matt, look at me. Matt, I don't care. I don't care about the strat. Matt, look at me. Are you having fun? Are you having fun? And that made my whole event. Brought
That's
smiles to my
incredible.
face. So the players stepped up big time grand finals, yes.
I was going to say, talk us through that end of the third map, right? You guys go backstage. You've got 5-10 minutes to collect yourselves. What do you say in that moment? Like, how do you get the boys back on side to say, look, we're going into their map pick. I don't care. This is still winnable.
Oh, I didn't do shit. It was them.
All them?
I just did the prep. Yeah, so like I kind of like I shit the bed on grand finals. I'm not gonna lie. I called awful timeouts all day long. I was not being a good leader, but the players, wow. I mean, Sean, Matt, Gavin, D, Spirits, they were able to like talk themselves back into the mental every round. Whenever someone faltered a bit, we were just right back onto like uplifting them again. It was beautiful. I mean, I just love to see it, and you know that's what sometimes needs to happen. Like sometimes I am like, most of the time I do consider myself like a big leader, but that day I was able to step back and just support them, be the supporting staff, fill in, like, giving them the strats, giving them the prep, telling them what the enemy team does, and just, making sure they eat bananas. That's one big thing I did. As I was like, eat. Like we started losing, and I was like, we're not eating between maps. That's why. Eat bananas now. Everyone eat a banana now. But just kind of like filling in the smaller things on my end, and the players did the big portion of the lifting themselves.
You were keeping them inside the guardrails, but really letting them be the ones who sort of determine their own destiny there, right?
Yeah.
I got to ask, because someone else mentioned this before as a question. I don't know if it's a thing or not, but they were like, apparently you have a rule of there's no timeouts after round 6 except for OT. Is that true?
For this event, yes.
Why?
Because I realized that we have so many strats that if I call a timeout, it gives the enemy coach a chance to say something.
Right.
So regardless, I'm losing. No matter what I call in that timeout. If we go from 6-2 to 6-5, no matter what I call in that timeout, we are giving the enemies more options because we already had those options prepared from outside of the game day. Like we trained so hard to develop, like 3, 4, 5, 6 variants per site, per strat, per map, that like at the end of the day, they'll run out of options before we do, no matter what. So by giving them their coach, by giving them access to their coach, we're trolling, essentially.
Right.
Right. I think my biggest like wake up call for that was against FaZe. We were up and I called timeout and they went house and they brought it to OT. So or they won or something.
Yeah.
So I made it a rule from that point on. I'm like, dude, like we got so many options. We prepared so hard that regardless, man, like regardless, we hit round 6. This event, at least just this event, I'm not calling a timeout.
Interesting. Is it less a rule than in that case of post round 6 timeout, or are you more thinking about the mental side there, or is it more of like a side based thing, i.e., if you guys are on the attack, you don't want to give them time to think about it, or if in the defense, you don't want to give them time to think about it?
I just think like we just have so many more strats that I just don't want to give them their coach. That's it. The whole idea is don't give them their coach.
As
Because their coach
they
was
learn more and more about you as the game goes on.
Yeah,
regardless of side.
Exactly.
Yeah, fair. I've got to ask about this a little bit because I think you said earlier on, like you thought, like was it map bans or op bans are really important? I forget which one you wanted to talk about more.
Map bans, yeah.
Yeah, we'll go into that in a second. I've got to ask about the Fenrir permaban. I look at team bans a lot, and you guys go hell for leather on banning that Fenrir every single time. And after, like, I think it was map 3, I was like crying, like, guys, get Leakyfac off this fucking Solus. He's deleting you. And every single map we'd see the Fenrir come out again. I was like, guys, no, they barely play Fenrir. Surely you can let it go. Why was that? Did you guys just think the Solus wasn't really a problem? Because to everyone else, he looked like a serious problem.
I mean, he was a problem, but Federer is just AIDS, man. That's just like so broken. Such a broken operator. And I mean, we just figured out early on in our team identity that playing against that operator, takes away a lot of our strengths. We're a very aim-based team, so why would we let an operator through that just doesn't let people see? And it's just AIDS. Like there's that one spot on Nighthaven garage rafters door, and you put the Fenrir up there outside the door, and as an attacker, you walk there and you're just dead. Like it is so AIDS. Like there's nothing you can do, and you just die, and it's just depressing. So we're not dealing
every
with
team's
that.
got one. I'm pretty sure for DZ it's
Yeah.
DKB and his army, right? That's their 2 permabans forever. Yeah,
Yes.
fair enough. Do you think
But we did figure out during the event that we didn't need to permaban Doke, which was good. I mean, Sean made it like a call. Like we went up against Troy's Monty, and that was just so oppressive.
Yeah.
Troy is the best Monty in the world. I will say that. He's so good at the operator. And we're just like, wow, if we take away Monty from these, archetype of players, that if we force them onto a real gun, it perhaps is an advantage for us. I yeah, we win.
You could argue BDS felt like that about you guys, right? The hot and cold target bans tried the whole thing with the Monty bans coming out time and time and time again. I was worried how you guys would do without it, to be fair, but
Oh, thank God, we were falling off with Monty. No, thank God. I don't know why everyone kept hitting Monty against us. We weren't that good. Like Troy was the king of Monty at that point. Like, I mean, we'll take them. We'll play Monty. It's another option, but it's like, we don't need it. Thank God.
Yeah.
Hot and Cold, every time he sees a Monty ban, Hot and Cold's just like, he's cheering. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna get kills this game. Yeah.
I don't get to sit behind a shield all game. Yay.
Yeah.
I've got to ask about the dot ban that came through those first 2 maps as well, because you make a fair point. Like, you guys used to ban it a lot as well, but you've got 3 players on BDS that have it in their top 3 most played. I think for 2 of them, it was their most played operator as well. Was that more specifically because you guys don't want to deal with Docker, or was it more because you knew how good they were with it?
Yeah, they were very good with Dokkaebi. I saw that they perma picked it, and a lot of their entries, like their drone economy is not that like good. They play off of doke calls mid round and late round after sacking almost like all their drones within the first minute and a half. So that was a game plan going in, but then we realized like they're also very good at the AIDS ops, and honestly, like at this point, we've already had enough reps on game day against no Dokkaebi, so we can start banning other ops. Border Glass was the obvious answer. We saw how they crashed easy. Oh my God! Like, thank God, thank you, DZ, for playing them on border. By the way, like, thank you so much, because, oh my God, thank God for that glass ban. Yes, they have very good glass shots on border.
It was crazy, absolutely crazy. It was a really interesting back and forth series. Border specifically as map 5, I think is such a fascinating map. You hear this all the time in the community, as you know. Borders where you shouldn't be taking teams that you consider yourself to be better than because they can upset you on the gunfights. It's a very gunfight heavy map. It's basically modern day Coastline, right? What's your perspective on Border? What do you think of it as a map?
It feels like such a nice map to play against teams like BDS and DZ. And then you go against OXG on border, and then you just get depressed. That's it. I just hate taking it. I don't know why. As a career in my career, I've managed to take OXG to border twice. It's like the worst mistake ever. Like, goddamn, I hate playing that team on border. That's it.
Why do you think it's okay to take BDS and DZ there?
Because like they enter the building and they like you take like your gunfights that are fun, and then OXG they're like the best. All these years, different rosters, and they're just so good at playing those long border cuts and getting you out of spots without even having to risk anything. And it's just depressing because like the round just goes and you just see your teammates drop silently like flies one by one. Just sad. I don't want to do that.
You're not even rattled. You're rattled by a team that wasn't even at the major.
DZ against DZ Cafe too. Yes, the most depressing feeling ever. Like playing DZ. I don't know how that also happened again. That's on me. I'm an idiot. Like you. Why would I take DZ to Cafe again? It's depressing. They just sit on their cocktail take, and then your C1 player dies, and then your Stacks player dies, and then your Bathroom player dies, and you can't do shit because NJR's on his upside down white stairs repel, and he's invincible. Like he never dies. Like he plays that spot in ranked. I play ranked with NJR, and every time we get Cafe, he sits on that spot every round. That's how you know that's dedication. That's why he never dies on that spot, bro.
Do you think that's down to having Monty normally available on that map though? Like the Canadian being able to abuse it? Or just NGR being the window player?
We also underestimated how strong Troy was on Monty. Troy's definitely very, very strong Shields player.
Fair enough, and that was a big problem. Okay, and then let's talk post-border then. You guys win, you lift the trophy. It's a classic easy question. How did that feel?
Relief, I think, was the biggest thing. For me personally, it felt like years of hard work had finally be chalked up to something. And also, like, I was on a ticking clock on my own hands. So before the event, and before this team, I had like a personal journey of mine was how do I be okay with not accomplishing up to my own standards, given I had to retire right now, right? Given in this moment, how do I come to terms with everything I've already done? Because that's the competitive curse. Is like the competitor's curse is like you don't make it far if you become satisfied at any point. Like anyone that joins the NBA and becomes genuinely satisfied that they joined the NBA will never win a ring in their life, right? And like you have to like not be satisfied with being the best CL player. You have to not be satisfied with making pro league. You have to not be satisfied with winning pro league. You have to not be satisfied with just making main stage. You have to, and then like once you get that trophy, then what, right? Are you just gonna endlessly be hungry? Right? Yeah, like, and then that's why so many retirees come back over and over and over again. Like, it's like, so really training that mental of separating my personal worth from my achievements in game. It's just a personal thing for me, I guess. Because my time was, no matter what, coming to an end. And then somehow, some way, when I did that, when I conquered that fear, is when I got the trophy. So I was like, well, shit, like that. Okay, I'll take it. Um, but I think the biggest thing I highlighted for me was how much I think personally I enjoyed more the moments along the journey than the payoff. I think a lot of people are really zeroed in on that payoff, and I had a blast just teaming with the boys and working with the boys. Yeah.
And it's come when you blink and look back on it, a lot of that time is gone. And I guess the blessing is you still have, of course, potentially the Esports World Cup to have another swing at the bat and really savor those moments that a little bit more, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want us to sour this here because all you said there is really good. Like, do you think going off to do a PhD now, you'll look back and say, "Oh, we should figured that sooner, so I had a good swing at winning SI"?
What do you mean, like?
As in, do you ever think you'll look back in the future and say, "Yeah, I won a major," but like you say, it's never being happy with where you got to. Do you ever think you'll look back and say, "I'm sad we didn't win SI"?
I think I'll be okay. I think I'll be okay. I don't know about the players. Well, because I've just been undergoing this whole like mental journey within myself personally. Um, I used to be a very and my teammates can still probably say that I'm still a very self-abrasive coach. Um, I end up blaming myself for almost everything as much as I can, just so that I can improve the most. And just I don't know, just I was okay with losing at any point in that tournament. I think. Like, we went down 0-3 in NAL, and that's when I started switching my mindset around to, what comes. I give it my all, and what comes, and I can be satisfied with that as long as I give it my all and I'm having fun, and
That feels
I
like the
have
motto for your guys' team is have fun.
yeah, and I can really, give a special thanks to some people in my real life for that. They've taught me, they've helped guide me through that a lot, and yeah, I mean, just I think I've really just come to terms, like, because I was okay with bombing out of Manchester. I was okay with just going 8th place. I was just okay with 4th place. I was okay with 2nd place, and we won the whole thing, and that's fine too. But the whole time I was okay with it, and I don't want to speak for the players because I think they want that hammer really badly, and all power to them. Like, I want to see them win it. That's my boys. I love them. Like, I hope they get fucking a banging coach for that, and they do just go show the world why North America is the best. But I'm plenty happy, I think, personally.
This might be lifting the curtain a little bit on future plans, which I was going to talk to you about anyway. But obviously, at this point, you said post Esports World Cup, I'm done. I'm off to do a PhD. That really gives you 3 months left with the team. Are you and Foes already speaking, and maybe the players getting involved as well about what comes next? Who do you bring in your stead?
Yeah. There's been, speaking of options. I don't want to be too involved. I just want to make sure, like, whoever comes in, they're not feeling like they have to fill shoes. I want them to be their own coach, but I also really want the coach to. I'm also scared of someone who might tear apart the team. I've talked to the team about this. I want to make sure they come in and they tailor to everyone's needs and they work through problems together, as opposed to like taking sides. Because our team can actually be there's plenty of beef and scrims. I'm not gonna lie. So I just want to make sure, like, everyone's tailored to, no one's shut down, no one's scapegoated, no one's blamed, and as long as someone's there that can keep that culture going, then regardless of what else they bring, I think it'll be very successful as long as everyone values and trusts in each other as a 6 or a 7. Yeah.
This is definitely a tangent to that point as well, but I've got to ask it because I'm really curious. You look back over the last 4 or 5 years, a team wins SI. I know this is a major we're talking about, but let's use SI as a point here. Looking at the teams that have won it, SSG, we look at NIP, TSM, G2. Now it's happened to, W7M/Furia. Teams always seem to fall off after they've won SI, despite saying we're not going to fall off, we're keeping on at this level. That doesn't seem to be a thing. Why do you think that is as a coach?
I think it's the mindset that you keep doing what you're doing and you'll be fine. You can't keep doing what you're doing, you'll be fine. You have to keep doing what you're doing better. And that's a speech that you can hear me saying after we won first in the regular round robin stage of NAL before playoffs. Is you have to keep changing. You have to keep adapting. Your final form is never steady. You know, we permanent Sky before that event, right? And then all of a sudden, Sky was one of our best, if not our best
I
map
thought
at
I
that
thought you
event.
guys were crazy for taking BDS there, given their record this
Yeah.
year so far. I was like, what are they doing? And then don't I look like an idiot.
Yeah. So I mean, like you just got to keep pushing, keep understanding that no matter what you win, you start right back from ground zero and you need to be just as hard on yourself. And you can't really pull from the past and be like, this worked for us. I mean, yeah, you can, I guess, from experience. But like it don't crutch that. Don't crutch, but this is what won us SI 2 years ago. This is this is that. Like just always try to like look for that next best version of yourself as a team, and it might look completely different, and that's fine. That's completely fine. And I think if that's understood, then we shouldn't fall off. But I mean, it's hard to say because Esports World Cup is an open qualifier, so someone could have like DMA, undetectable cheat, and just drop 30 bomb against us, and we get first rounded, and we can't do anything about it. So you never know. Maybe that's in the books.
Time will tell, right? We'll see. We'll see. Fingers crossed, not.
Hopefully not. Yeah.
Let's talk about you as a coach. And a lot of people don't like talking about themselves, but I hope you can. What do you think makes you different / better than other coaches? And if you want to, it can be unique things here that you think at least about you that you hold yourself like quite in high pride for, that you think are really good about yourself compared to others. What do you think those traits are?
I think I'm good at like breaking things down and rebuilding them very, very fast. I think like when we went 0-3 in NAL, the best thing we did as a team that I will take pride in kind of leading was a role change, a theory change, and a culture change. And just kind of understanding like we had to optimize all three to make a better winning team. So we switched Diffuser onto Entry. We switched Gunner onto defensive IGL. We switched Gunner onto the Roam on defense to make sure he can defensive IGL better. We switched Matt onto like shield power ops. We switched Sean and Spirits onto like more mailbox, roles, more util based roles, and like Diffuser onto the Entry to make sure everyone's comfortable. Culture wise, understanding that we're not a football team. We're not super professional. Like we're a team that for some reason loves to just flame each other and have fun and like but still work our asses off. And then, theory change. I don't want to get into that because I feel like that'd be leaking, but there's an old game theory that I was going off of that was like a rock, paper, scissors type of thing that worked in CL that made me go undefeated in CL. Like you just play rock, paper, scissors with Siege and you play the one that counters the other out of 3 styles and you always win. And it got us fourth in NAL, but it was outdated by the time I did it. So we made a completely new game theory to approach the game, based it off Super Smash Bros. Actually. So yeah, just I guess advanced complex theory strategy, min maxing every aspect of the team from culture to the way we speak to each other to everything. Being efficient. I think like coaches like Call Out do a lot more than me, and all power to him. I learned a lot from him. He's my mentor, and I fucking love him. I'm not able to do as much, but I feel like with what I'm able to do is like I'm very efficient with making sure we're on the right path and focusing on the right things. And yeah, theory, strategy, efficiency, culture, something along those lines.
And maybe this plays into culture, but like vibes as a coach is a thing that I wrote down in my notes at least, because every time we've seen you, you seem to be pretty bouncy. Whether it's alcohol before a game or not, I don't know, but you're always pretty high level, right? Do you see that as part of your role is keeping the energy pretty high for the whole team as well?
Not really. I just think that's just me. It's just hard to be someone else than just me. And I realized like over the course of my coaching career, it's like it was nice to look up to Kala and Bodega as like heroes that taught me a lot. And I love them, but at the end of the day, I'm my own person. So like I just realized I just gotta be me, and it is me to just be that energetic. And at some point the players were like, "Dude, I can't hear anything. Fetch is screaming." I was like, "You gotta deal with it, man. I can't control myself either."
I love it. I'll ask that one in a second. Actually, I'll come back to it in a minute. This one's a really interesting kind of technical question that someone asked, and I imagine you've got this experience over the years as well, given the orgs that you moved through and the rosters that you built and then changed and so on and so forth. What is your view on how you support a consistently underperforming player? When do you say it's then time to make a change? Because there are so few games in a Siege calendar year that it can be really hard to assess, right?
Yeah. I think it's when that player stops making effort to improve. I think like a lot of these high value players at some point, it really, I mean, it depends on the player. Like if you're talking about like a rookie roster, like LG or something, or wild card, or not wild card. Sorry, they're just like these other rosters that aren't as developed and experienced and aren't making international like appearances. Like you can say some of their players straight up are not up to par. But once you get to these higher level rosters, I think like almost every player is like picked up for good reason and they're nasty and they have the potential. It just really boils down to like, does this player, how much is this player willing to change to improve himself? Sometimes that answer does really come down to, are you willing to change your entire personality to improve? Right. I, as a coach, we got second to last place on Aerial Horizon CL because I had anger issues. So I had to completely change, my personality to be more calm, to be more composed, to be a better emotional leader in order to go on to the next team and win the whole thing. Um, and some players can't get over that, right? So I think it depends, like how much is a player willing to change about themselves to win. Yeah, that's really it. And if they can't anymore, then might be running out of options for that team.
I like that. That's good. And this one's quite somber, I guess. But again, I imagine probably many who are working their way through CL now, or potentially lower, even some of those maybe that are at the top tier of play. Are there any tough times that you look back on now and just think, man, I was so ready to throw in the towel back then, but obviously you persevered. What happened in those moments when you were at the lows and you thought this maybe isn't for me? Can you talk us through some of those? Or have you just been, you know what? I've been great the whole way through. This has been chill. I've won. It's easy. What's your take?
There was never an option back then except keep going
Hmm.
in my head. And I think that's one of the most important things as an esports competitor. Um, I think perseverance is one of the most important traits you can have as a competitor. In like kind of like a narrowing field as this, where like you reach the top and there's fewer and fewer people. I didn't really see myself like the way I perceived it is I didn't see myself surpassing people more so than I saw people dropping like flies around me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's why, like, for my mindset is more like just sticking it through mattered more than anything else.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And then we already spoke a bit about the future, what you have to study. Do you think you'll hang around in CG Sports? Are you done with it? That's it? Because you said earlier on, you want to focus on one thing. In this case, it's going to be education, which is completely respectable. Do you think you'll hang around and watch, be involved anyway, or are you just done and rinsing your hands of it entirely?
I'd love to make content. I don't know how much time I'll have for that. I'd love to do it. I think a big dream of mine, if I were to make content, is to somehow, some way, bring more eyes to CG sports. Uh, I don't know. I
Mm.
think I've been pretty successful with that on TikTok. I got like 200,000 followers. Yeah. So, and we'll see. We'll see if I can translate, everything over. And that'd be a personal dream of mine after being done with competing, is just to create a content brand around promoting CG sports overall, because I love this game. I love the people in it. I love you, Des.
Oh. It's a really interesting thing because I hear some people saying, "Oh, we're really missing deep analytical content in Siege." And the truthful answer is, it's those that have either been former pro players or been coaches and inside of these teams that really understand Siege to that level where the content is really good. Yeah, people will have different thoughts about different people who make content, but I look back at Reaper, for example, when he used to make tons of content. Lots of people would watch his videos religiously because it was the closest thing you could get to a real insight into how pros think about the game, right? But then equally, that's not the
Yeah.
most accessible to those that are really casual or are just kind of on the fringes of Siege. Maybe they play a bit of unranked with their mates every now and then, or maybe they haven't even heard of Siege before. There's just such a wide audience to cater for. Who is it that you really want to capture when you think about that content?
I'd love to be like a Tarek for Siege. That'd be crazy. Have you seen that guy's Valorant viewership?
I
That guy
can't
gets
say
like
I've seen
double
I've
the
seen the
double
co
the
streams. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, double the views. Like, if I could be that for Siege, or like, okay, that's ambitious. If I could be like Raza for like an English speaking audience, I think that'd be like very, very, very good.
So Fett co
Um,
streams on the way is what I'm hearing.
yes, yes, I love to bring that energy. Like, that's the thing, is like with Reaper, you got to realize like he's not only bringing that deep analysis, but he's presenting it in a way that's digestible to a lot of people. And then like he can add like good personality and all that. It's a lot of effort, a lot of great work, great stuff from all these content creators that are giving it their all. And I mean, hopefully I can capture, a fraction of that and, bring joy, bring knowledge to some people's lives. Yeah.
Mm. And then the $1 million question. Do you think you'll come back? You'll finish your PhD, you have the option of a career, or maybe someone wants you to come back into esports. What do you think?
No.
Well, that's shot and done. That's nice and easy. Cool. Wrap it up. We're done here. Why not out of curiosity? Because some can't run away from the passion, the pull of esports, right?
I can. That's why. The passion and the pull, it's nice for a bit. And maybe I'll crave it. But when you're in the shits, bro, like, you ever watch the movie Whiplash?
I can't say I have, no.
It's about the drummer that like literally like drums himself into his hands bleeding, and it's like the obsession.
Was that where he has
like,
to really like strict like tutor or something?
yes, the dude's yelling at him the whole time.
I think
that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Like genuinely, that's what it feels like to compete like and try to be the best. Like honestly, like yeah.
It's brutal. It's not a game for the old, which is why I don't do it.
Right? Yeah. Like right now, like I'm sure, like if I wasn't a PhD student, I'd keep going. But like when I'm done with my PhD and I'm fucking, I'm 28 years old, I'm 26, 28 years old, I'm not gonna look back and be like, yeah, that seems fun. That seems like a good thing to do.
Yeah, I want to calm down now, man. I want to get a house. I want to chill. Yeah.
I gotta find my wife. Gotta raise some kids. Gotta settle down. Wife and kids challenge.
You'll be doing what I'm doing now, which is like streaming and just like looking at people out there and just saying, "Oh, this is cool, man. Tell me about it." I don't want to do it, but I'll appreciate it from afar, right?
I look forward to that life. Honestly, it sounds really nice.
That's it. Mate, come join and jump on a TriCast sometimes at an event. If you ever fancy it, you're always welcome to come and jump on for a few games. It'd be a good laugh.
That'd be crazy. That'd be crazy if I became a caster one day.
I just want to know who gets more excited, you or Tim. Really, that's what I'm most excited
to
see.
Oh my god. We're going to overtime, Des.
Exactly. And the pair of you entertain at the same time in sync would be what really makes it. It'd be beautiful. Look, we're drawing towards the end of it now. It's been nearly an hour and a half as well. I really appreciate all the time you've given. Is there anything you'd like to say, share, anything you want to go through? I guess you mentioned the map bans earlier on. Maybe it'd be cool to go through those for a few minutes. Because theory of like map bans, we don't hear about much on the public side of things.
It's pretty simple. You just try to count for as many outcomes as possible. One thing I like I said earlier that I think we did better than a lot of other teams was, as opposed to taking a purely data-driven approach and being scared of other teams' maps or their score lines, is we watched their VODs and then we determined, whether or not we wanted to ban that map. Trusting your teammates' calls and not playing a lot of games. I think people like try too much to be cute and be like, let's play chicken with map bans, or let's gamble. Let's see if you pick this map. We just play it safe and objective. We know what the fuck it's gonna go to. We've ranked, right. I have map, like whenever I create a map ban plan, I ask map for like a map ranking of like 5 maps or like 3 maps, like at least 17 times, like for like different outcomes, and we just figure it out. And we keep it really objective, and it's been the most predictable thing every single time. I think map bans are easy as shit if you really get down the science of it. But yeah, last words. I mean, thank you so much, Des. It's been an honor to be here. I never thought I'd be speaking to a casting legend as yourself. Your duo is my favorite.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to all the other casters. I fucking love you guys. I fucking love listening to you guys. It gets me so hyped. Like I feel like a fan again because it's hard to watch a stream as a competitor and feel like a fan again, because I feel like you're kind of just going from an analytical point of view. But I feel like a fan again when I hear you cast.
We just do what you do, which is the way we always say it, is like we want everyone to have as much fun as we're having, and that's what it's got to be about. So really, it feels like the motto here to be successful, to win majors and to cast some big finals, is have fun.
Have fun. Everything in life. Have fun. I guess it's a great final message to anyone who cares to watch till the end, is everyone just have fun. Like it's just fucking life, bro. Like you put in your all.
Yeah, yes, I think you're really testing that motto when someone's like lost 10 games in a row to cheaters, though. Then it's a battle. Then I don't think it's so much fun anymore.
What can you do?
Not much at the minute. Breathe and wait and keep having fun. It's like keep calm and carry on, but keep calm and have fun. Yes. We'll get it on a mug and we'll split the profits together. It'll be great. But no, look, that's been amazing. Like I said, I know you've got a few more months up with the boys as well. I'll definitely get you back on in a few months' time, maybe before the next stage kicks off, when you can start to reveal all, because your career is done and dusted at that point. But it's been a real pleasure speaking to you. Thank you to you and the team for all the entertainment that we had at the major. It really was one to remember, especially with it being the first one in the UK. And I'm sad to see you go. But like I say, hopefully you hang around the scene. We see some good content from you. And let's get you on a TriCast sometimes. We'll blow the roof off that place.
Hey, that'd be crazy. Yeah, thank you so much, man. Thank you
No
so much for the
worries.
opportunity.
And for everyone else tuning in, you'll see this on YouTube and on Spotify soon as well. We'll get some more of these going as well on the back end of the major. We've got a long off season to go through, so it's going to be a ton of fun. But thank you all again, and catch you all next time.